Ever since the Coke 600 race in Charlotte, there's been a lot of discussion regarding Kyle Larson and whether he should get a waiver and take his place in the playoffs this year. However, some believe that all this discussion was of no point as NASCAR's decision was made a while back, with a bit of convincing from Rick Hendrick. This year, Kyle Larson attempted the double during the weekend of the Coke 600 race. The double is when a driver competes in both the Indy 500 race and the Coke 600 race on that same day. This achievement is one of the most difficult ones in motorsport, not just because of how physically and mentally exhausting it will be, but also because it depends on various other factors outside the driver's control, such as delays due to red flags or bad weather conditions. This year, Larson headed to Indianapolis to take part in the Indy 500, where he qualified 5th. However, the race was delayed by 4 hours, making it impossible for him to get to Charlotte for the start of the Coke 600. But as soon as the race ended, he left Indianapolis and reached Charlotte only to find out that the Coke 600 was stopped due to the same storm that delayed the Indy 500. Hence, Larson could not even get a lap in the Coke 600. While weather might have prevented Kyle Larson from achieving the double, nothing will stop us from bringing you the latest news in NASCAR. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button for our channel. You won't regret it. According to NASCAR's regulations, a driver must start all races in the regular season in order to qualify for the playoffs. Since Larson missed the start of the Coke 600, his playoff eligibility was in doubt. But a lot of teams have applied for waivers on behalf of their drivers due to injuries. NASCAR has approved all waivers in the past, except for the one in 2021 where Grant Enfinger missed a race due to a lack of funding. Apart from this, NASCAR has approved every waiver. So after the Coke 600, Hendrick Motorsports applied for the waiver. There were a lot of mixed opinions on the waiver, as some felt that approving this waiver would set a bad precedent. It would encourage other drivers to attempt races in other competitions. Others felt that Larson deserved to have the waiver approved, as he attempted an incredible achievement. Although he wasn't successful, he still made his way back to Charlotte and was ready to race if the weather had eased up, which it didn't. NASCAR has made its decision. They have decided to approve the waiver submitted by Larson's team. NASCAR's VP of Competition, Elton Sawyer, said this to justify why the waiver was approved. "We ultimately landed at giving Kyle a waiver. Essentially, our decision-making was that although we had the inclement weather in Indianapolis as well as Charlotte, Kyle made every attempt to get to Charlotte. He was standing in the pit box with his helmet on ready to go. Unfortunately, we had weather in Charlotte as well and were unfortunately not able to get the race going again. That's how we landed on our decision." Although Sawyer does have a point, some feel that there were some under-the-table deals involved in this decision. People believe that Rick Hendrick decided to convince NASCAR to approve the waiver using his influence. There's no doubt that Rick Hendrick is a very wealthy man. So there's a huge possibility that NASCAR could have taken a bribe to convince themselves that Kyle Larson deserved that waiver. It's no secret that Hendrick Motorsports has some influence on the decisions made by NASCAR. After all, HMS has been in the sport for a long time and has built a successful legacy. NASCAR is proud to have such a team a part of their sport. Recently, there have been reports suggesting that NASCAR is contemplating whether to limit the number of charters per team to 3. But this limitation will be applicable to all teams except for Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing, who will be grandfathered in. Both of these teams have played their part in building the sport's popularity among fans. Considering this, there's a strong possibility that Rick Hendrick would have waived some money under the table toward NASCAR to push them to approve the waiver. Either way, the final decision has been made. After the Coke 600, Larson was a bit let down that he wasn't able to complete the double, but he's ready to try it again next year. Cliff Daniels gave me a good, nice phone call and all of that. I wasn't as sad about how the IndyCar race turned out. I was just sad that I didn't get a chance to get into the car and get going. I felt like I was, in my heart and my mind, I felt like I was letting these guys down, because I didn't get to talk to them before the race," Larson explained. He continued, "I thought if I was in their shoes, I didn't know what they were thinking. I didn't want them thinking I chose something else over them. But after talking to Cliff, everybody was in great spirits and all of that, and proud that I was an Indy representing their team. It all made me feel better. But I just didn't really know, so I felt depressed for a night or two. I mean, I would like to do it again just because I can't imagine the weather could get any worse, or could screw up the plans any worse," Larson quipped. "I think if I was to do it again, it would go smoother." In a way, he is right. Larson just had the worst luck in the world while he was attempting the double. It's not often that we see a 4-hour delay for the Indy 500 and then a suspended session of the Coke 600. Things can only get better from here. Although Larson was upset after missing out on the double, his NASCAR crew chief, Cliff Daniels, was able to pick him up. Next year, he'll be trying this feat once again to put his name in the history books. So far, 5 drivers have completed the double, but only Tony Stewart was able to do so by completing the entire 1,100 miles of both races. And NASCAR has nothing against more drivers attempting the double. Here's what Elton Sawyer had to say about it. Indy is a big race. Obviously, the Coke 600 is a big race for us as well, but if we can look at motorsports in general, the Indy 500 is a big event. We embrace the double. We think it's great. We want to see other drivers have that opportunity, Sawyer said. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but every situation is different. And I feel like we have the parameters in our rulebook and the team here at the R&D to make the best decision, and that's ultimately what we are hired to do, Sawyer added. Sawyer also explained why the waiver wasn't given to Larson before the Coke 600. Given that he was attempting the Indy 500 first, there was always a possibility that he would miss the start of the Coke 600. But NASCAR didn't want to give an indication of what their decision would be before the race, as the team and Larson might not have taken it as seriously as they did. Now that Larson is back in the playoffs, he will be focusing on increasing his position in the points table. Before the last race in Illinois, Larson was sitting in first position, which would have given him a 15-point bonus for the playoffs. But after a 10th place finish, which was compromised by an accident with Kyle Busch, Larson now sits second in the points, just 21 points behind Denny Hamlin. During the first half of the season, we saw Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing dominating the grid. But as the second half has just started, the Penske's are looking to make a comeback. The Ford cars seem to be very weak in the first half. But in Illinois, Austin Cindric won the team for Penske using the Ford Mustang Dark Horse. For a while, Penske looked as though all 3 of their drivers would finish at the front. But Ryan Blaney ran out of fuel on the last lap of the race, while Joey Logano lost position to Hamlin, Keselowski, and Reddick. With Penske making a leap in their performance in the second half, Kyle Larson's chances to score more points could be more of a challenge than before. Going to California for the next race, Larson will be facing a lot of challenges. It will also be a very interesting race, as the race will be held in the Sonoma Raceway, which is not an oval like the rest of the track. So we will see some right turns during the race. This year, Larson has a genuine chance to add another title to his name. He has already won the Cup Series championship once back in 2021. Now he'll have the opportunity to do it again. Do you think Kyle Larson will be able to take advantage of this waiver and win the Cup Series championship once again this year? Post your thoughts in the comment section below.